While you're practicing, if you need to take a quick break and get a snack or go to the bathroom, you'll want to use the pause button. That way, MetaPractice doesn't count that time toward your total practice time. But sometimes your distractions are bigger than that. Maybe your practicing is interrupted by having to go to baseball practice. Maybe it's time to eat dinner or go to bed. In these cases, you should use the Postpone feature. To postpone your practicing, use the back button in the upper left corner, then choose Postpone Practice. When you return to the teacher's screen, you'll know your practice session has been saved on your device. When it's time to resume your practicing, all you have to do is just tap on the practice button again, and your practice session automatically picks up right where it left off. Now, let's say there's a goal you already marked as completed, but you want to practice that goal again, and you want MetaPractice to give you credit for this extra practicing. There is a handy undo feature for this. Simply tap on the completed goal, tap on undo, and the goal is now restored to its original unpracticed state. The back button serves an additional purpose in some situations. If your teacher has your practice routine set to advanced mode, you would see all of your pieces and all of your goals on one screen. But if you are in beginner or skilled mode, you will either see one goal at a time or one piece at a time with all of its goals, which is what we see here. In this case, we can also go back to the previous piece, the previous set of goals, by again tapping the back button, and this time selecting Go Back. It's important to understand that your practicing is not actually uploaded to the MetaPractice cloud until you get to the end of your practice routine. The data for your current practice session is stored on your own device during your practicing, including when you postpone practicing, and only when you complete a practice session is the data finally uploaded to the server and counted. Here we see the last step of the practice routine, in this case a very uninteresting view of an empty repertoire list. We tap on the Finish button at the bottom, then confirm our choice to finish. This summary screen appears after your data has been uploaded to the MetaPractice cloud, in this case showing a very unimpressive 1 total minute practicing. Hopefully you'll do better than me. There are a couple mistakes that students commonly make that you should avoid like the plague. The first mistake happens when students don't use the Postpone feature enough. Suppose you are right in the middle of your practice routine and you are interrupted. You know there's no way you'll have time to practice again until tomorrow, but instead of postponing a practice, you mark all of the remaining goals in your practice routine as completed so that you can hit the Finish button and have your practice stats uploaded. There are two problems here. First, this produces inaccurate practice statistics for your teacher to view at the end of the week. The goals here in red didn't actually get practiced, even though you reported they were. Second, the next time you practice, you will be prompted to start all over, which means you practice the first half of your routine twice before you get to the last half of your routine. If you do this enough times during the week, your practicing will be really lopsided, practicing the same things a lot and other things hardly at all. The second big mistake is the opposite, using the Postpone button too much. I had a couple students who didn't like using the Finish button and instead would use the Undo feature over and over again to re-practice various parts of the routine, using Postpone at the end of every day. Sometimes they would never hit the Finish button even once during the entire week, which meant they would show up to lessons with practice stats of 0 minutes spent practicing 0 times, because their giant week-long practice session was never uploaded to the cloud. The best way to use MetaPractice is to simply postpone wherever you are each day, unless you just happen to be at the end, and if you're at the end, tap the Finish button. That means there may be days when you start a new practice routine immediately after finishing the previous one, and that's fine. The only time you should skip through to the end of your routine in order to tap the Finish button is if you know it is the very last time you will practice before your lesson. Naturally, you'll want to make sure you get credit for your partial practice session before your practice stats are reset by the new lesson. This will still show slightly inflated practice repetitions for certain goals and pieces, but it will be close enough.